welcome to the Plant-Based Profit Show, where we share inspiring stories from successful plant-based entrepreneurs and business experts. I'm Ronnie Tsunami Gandiza, the CEO of the Plant-Based Network.
And I'm Shawn Stratton, the founder and director of the International Vegan Film Festival. We did it. We're here. 00 episode number 0. I'm thrilled to be here. It's so exciting to have this finally launched. We've been working on this for months, Ronnie, and here it is, the first episode. Today, we just wanted to take a few moments to tell you a little bit about ourselves and what the show is going to be about and why we started the show. We're not going to spend too much time, so you can dive right into the first episode. Ronnie, why don't you tell us a little bit about your backstory and what you brought you on the vegan journey to where you are now with the Plant-Based Network and everything else you're involved in?
Well, thanks, Shawn. Again, it's an honor to be with you on this podcast. And I must tell you, I'm excited for a number of reasons. But I really got started 25 plus years ago, more than 25 years ago, in training and education. And I've been building marketing and technology training programs. And it was in 2015. I ended up going plant-based for health reasons, and we'll delve deeper into that in future episodes. But needless to say, I was upset that there wasn't a lot out there in terms of education for the mainstream. And so I wanted to build those type of training education programs to educate people on the power of plant-based, the whole lifestyle, right? Not just one aspect, but the whole lifestyle, because it helps with so many things, from health to sustainability to, of course, compassion for animals. And spending time with other companies, helping to grow the plant-based movement, I decided we needed a bigger platform because we face so many obstacles out there from industry, right? From the meat industry, from the dairy industry, from the pharmaceutical industry, who have such a big marketing presence, both in scope and just money. So I said, let's build a platform that allows us to also get the message out, to compete, to counter the narrative put together by those industries. Hence, the Plant-Based Network was founded on trying to compete, to put a platform out there to spread the plant-based message all over the world. And the Plant-Based Network started off on streaming TV, on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire. Get out there, get on social media as well. And we've launched a magazine and a number of other services all around, getting the message out and helping people to also share that message with others. Not just the choir, not just vegans and plant-based advocates, but to share it with mainstream. So our goal within the Plant-Based Network is really to have 90% of our audience being non-plant-based. People where you can sit down with your family and friends who are not plant-based, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is fun. You know, we have humor, we have music, we have health, we have fitness, and we have kids and parenting. There's so many different topics, not just cooking. Obviously, we have cooking shows as well. And that's why it's important, I think, for mainstream to understand that plant-based isn't just a diet. It is a lifestyle. And there's a lot of things that go into life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we'll talk more about that. That's why we share, even in this podcast, not just a particular product or service, but we talk about the life. How do people get into the plant-based world and what keeps them going?
Right on.
And what about you, Shawn? Because I know you've got quite a different story from me, which is what I love, right? We're very polar opposites at times, but definitely also have a common thread. What's your backstory?
Yeah, you know, you're I guess from the most western part of North America, and I grew up in the most easterly part of North America in St. John's, Newfoundland. It's actually the most easterly tip of North America. You look out the ocean and you can see Ireland, and actually you can't see Ireland. It's hundreds of miles away, but we tell our kids that we can. But so I grew up in Newfoundland. Big part of who I am. Great spot on the east coast of Canada. And yeah, for a big part of my kind of adult career, I worked in outdoor education. I worked in outdoor leadership. I spent about 15 years leading wilderness expeditions around the world, focused on leadership development in the wilderness. So teaching outdoor living skills, mountaineering, sea kayaking, backpacking, some corporate groups, a lot of adult groups, and a lot of college students doing semester programs. And I got paid to travel the world doing that. And it was living the dream. I loved it. Absolutely loved that chapter in my life. And I guess in my mid 30s, I started to get burnt out of that lifestyle and was looking for the next chapter. And I took that leadership training and I moved into kind of corporate leadership training and professional speaking. I did a master's in leadership to kind of solidify the theory side of leadership and combine that with my experience, and did a lot of keynote speaking at conferences, at retreats, worked on a lot of corporate team building events, and have a big passion for that. I still do some of that work, and I think I'll be doing the speaking for the rest of my life. It's a big passion of mine. I released my first book, Teams on the Edge, in 2013. That's stories and lessons from wilderness expeditions. So it has a team building and leadership focus. And I'm just about finished my second leadership book now. It should be coming out either in late 2020, early 2021. But so leadership is a big impact on my life. Organizing events, obviously organizing expeditions. And then as I phased out of leading the expeditions, I started to get back in triathlons. I did triathlons when I was in college, and then I started organizing triathlons and organizing other sporting events. And so I've always kind of had that organizing mindset. And as I grew on my vegan journey, which started in 2015, like yourself, for health reasons at the time, as I started on that journey, I kept my head was spinning of how I can get involved in the community, how I can serve the plant-based community using my skills and experience. And mulled that over for years and years, and then eventually in 2017 I decided that perhaps a film festival would be a way to dive into it, and been inspired by several other film festivals that I've seen over the years, and thought maybe I could bring a film festival to Ottawa. And I was surprised when I found there were no vegan film festivals or vegan themed film festivals in the world, and so I decided to create it. And launched the International Vegan Film Festival in 2017, and we're going into our third year now, and we'll get more into that on later episodes, I'm sure. But I am the founder and director of the film festival. I love that. It's fun every day to talk with filmmakers and audiences around the world. We also have a world tour with pre-COVID. The world tour, we had screenings in local communities around the world, work with local hosts to have screenings of the best of the film festival. And hopefully we'll get back into that after COVID is long and gone. But right now we're moving the film festival online. It takes place in October. And again, we'll get more into that later. So
we're definitely on opposite sides, because if you haven't guessed, I'm from Hawaii, right? Originally living in North Carolina now. So in terms of the West, far west, in the U.S. That is definitely where I would love to be. That is my home. But now I am on the East Coast and basically north of Charlotte, North Carolina. So we have different perspectives. Obviously, we have different backgrounds, family-wise.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely not athletic, I would say. You have the athletic part of it. I have more of the computer technology piece. I was in the Air Force. That's where I learned all of my technology piece. And I just eat it, breathe it. I would rather be in VR world, and I have no problem being in my own little cubicle or office. But you are an outdoors person. So we got a lot of different perspectives here for, the whole gamut in terms of the topics that we have. But it seems like we do have a passion in terms of leadership and trying to get the message out. You get the message out through the films. I get the message out through TV. And we both work with communities as well and support groups and all of those things together. Definitely, we have a common thread there.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got a bunch of kids. You've got grandkids the same age as my kids. I've got three little girls. I have three little girls that are a big part of my life, and I know you've got some grandkids that are in North Carolina. One of the big reasons that you're hanging out there.
I'm still here, right?
So let's talk a little bit about 5 kids. Yeah, wow. Let's talk about the show. What's the show about? Why did you want to do a podcast, Ronnie?
Podcasts are wonderful for a couple reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is just reach. for me. I wanted, again, to spread the message, right? We're very passionate about the plant-based lifestyle to impact health, environment, and compassion for animals, and whatever it takes to get that message out to as many people as possible is key for me. And of course, entrepreneurs developing products and services to help people learn about, transition, and live plant-based, super critical. And the plant-based movement is growing, but we need more people to not just learn, but be able to share. And you can share a podcast. We didn't want just a podcast on radio or on the internet, but to put together a podcast that we could share on TV, because people consume in so many ways, right? Different medium. So that's where having the plant-based profit show in various platforms, on various platforms, whether it's through social media, through your typical channels online, as well as on streaming TV and beyond. And I say beyond because we've got big plans. That's why I see this as being a very important piece. But as I mentioned before, Shawn, your ability to tell stories, the ability to capture those stories in a way that impacts people, motivates, and inspires, right? That, to me, is the most important thing. We want entrepreneurs to know they're not alone. And I've seen this too many times. I help a lot of entrepreneurs, both outside of the plant-based world and now really more dedicated specifically to plant-based entrepreneurs. I don't want that entrepreneurship to die, that passion, because they feel like no one's with them.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I had that kinship, right? When we first met, it was like, hey, you're doing this, I'm doing that. And it seems like we were operating in silos.
Mm-hmm.
We're not. This is not a silo environment. The plant-based entrepreneurial world is much smaller and closer to each other. And that's what we're trying to communicate here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and for me, I absolutely love podcasts. I devour podcasts. I probably listen to 2 hours of podcasts a day. I'm anytime I'm doing the dishes, anytime I'm running, I just devour it. I decided a bunch of years ago when I was training for one of my marathons that if I'm going to spend this much time running, I should get smarter while I'm doing it. And so there can be more value just from my running instead of just my fitness. And I got into podcasts and absolutely loved it. And I've always been an inquiring mind. I've always been that kid that asks one too many questions. I remember one time someone came to visit our house when we were kids, and at some point, I think my mother said, "Okay, Shawn, you get 2 more questions." It was just a friend of the family that came over, and I was just pelting them with questions. And so I've always been that kind of inquiring mind and wanting to go below, the surface conversation and really dig in and find out who people are. It's one thing I love. The expeditions I was on, I didn't like the kind of the weekend 1, 2 day, 3 day trips with people. You hardly get to know them, but like on a month-long expedition, you really get to know people. And and if in a 20-minute podcast, you can only cover so much. And so we like to go a little deeper here. Our probably average podcast length will probably be an hour to 60, 70, 80 minutes long. And I want to do a lot of research, for these guests. We're doing, I'm up to 3, 4, 5 hours of research on each guest, and really digging up some information that we can find and ask them. And kind of want to leave no stone unturned in terms of the questions. There's too many times I listen to a podcast and they finish and I'm like, what? I've got 10 more questions you should have asked that person. And so hopefully we can ask as many questions as you're thinking about when we're going through our interviews. And I'm really excited. I'm definitely inspired by the NPR podcast. Many people know out there. It's how I built this. And it's been a great inspiration. I really like the podcast. And I've kind of modeled that a little bit off their show, and that just taking a deep dive and really connecting with these entrepreneurs and realizing these entrepreneurs that many of us put on our pedestals are that wow, they're just incredible and they've had such an amazing life, and there's it'd be nice to be there someday, but there's no way I could do it. But when you dig down, you find their backstory of like they're just like us, they're just like you and me, and it's important to connect to those those background stories to inspire you to keep pushing and to find out what made them successful, and learning that it wasn't, necessarily the MBA in business school that made them successful, but it might have been one decision they made one Wednesday afternoon because of something they saw they were driving down the street, and that changed the whole focus of their business, or anything like that. So finding those nuggets of inspiration, as well as bringing our expert series on, and finding some more tips that are focused on plant-based businesses from these business experts that have specific tools that work with plant-based businesses. So there's two different aspects to most of our conversations, or to the guests that we have on. One are the kind of the successful entrepreneurs that have been at it for a few years, if not dozens of years. And then others are expert guests that we have on that are more kind of consultants, have agencies that work with businesses. So yeah, I just want to have another platform, another avenue to spread the great word of entrepreneurship and plant-based businesses. And I know they're growing leaps and bounds now, and we need all the support that we can get. And hopefully this is one small avenue of support for new and emerging businesses out there in the plant-based space. And you leave each interview, I hope you leave with a couple of nuggets that you can implement in your business. So yeah.
Even, one of the things that I really like in our approach, which quite frankly surprised me, because I'm known as Ronnie Tsunami because I like to go big and fast in anything I do. And as a speaker, as a motivational speaker, in helping people convert their passions into careers, right, that they can enjoy and feel like it's a fulfilling life. It's what I specialized in, but I tend to go quick, meaning, quick tips on how to get things done. I don't have a lot of time. We got to get things done. And in training and education, training is different from education in that training, you tend to train on specific topics that are relevant to the time. Education tends to be more foundational, things that you build upon. So you have 4 years of education, but you may have, 2 or 3 months of specific training there. And that surprised me how much I truly enjoy actually now digging in deeper. Whereas you said, having that time to ask deeper questions and delve in rather than just looking for some highlights, that we see. And I was surprised at how much stories impacted me, not just remembering tips, but having the feelings. Because often tips will provide knowledge.
Sure.
But to listen to such inspirational legends, right, out there in the plant-based world, in the business world in general, and the feeling I walked away with was even bigger, right? As we talk about things, we want our listeners, our viewers, to understand that it isn't just what you know, but how you feel and then how you share those feelings with others. There's a lot of passion in this world, especially in the plant-based world, because we know there's so much we can do to save the world in so many different ways, just by doing one thing, changing what you put in your mouth. So with that, I think that feeling we want people to walk away with, we hope you walk away feeling empowered, feeling inspired, motivated, and ultimately feeling hopeful that we can change the world. You can change the world, and that you're not alone and other people want to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good place to leave it and start off the show with episode number 1 coming your way. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your feedback, and we look forward to being of service for you, for the plant-based entrepreneur out there that is looking to make some profits and do good with their profits. So hang on. I look forward to having you a part of the journey.